perfect time to introduce, I think, our guest, Mr. Jesse Lyon, who is a licensed mental health counselor. So if you've listened to our podcast, we'll definitely go off topic and I'm sure we'll be like unloading trauma. I will.
Jen will.
If you've listened to our podcast, I will be unloading my trauma. Also a certified clinical hypnotherapist and the founder of the Lyon Mental Health Organization. So welcome to our podcast.
Yeah, welcome.
Thanks for having me. This has been great. Yeah. Trauma seems to be a big part of the work that I do. And, I can't think of anything quite as traumatic as planning and having a wedding. So this is perfect. I think I'm uniquely qualified for this conversation.
I think so too. When I went out to kind of find guests for this podcast, when I found you, I was like, oh my God, this is incredible because I don't know. Well, first of all, I like when people put science behind what some people consider to be like, maybe not, I want to say like woo-woo. That's what I call it.
I'm very much in a woo-woo space. Yeah. And I feel like I battle that all the time where you get two kind of professionals, like in social media especially, those who are hypnotherapists who do it from a very spiritual, metaphysical plane, which is not what I do, and then dream interpreters who do that from a very spiritual, metaphysical plane, which is not me either. I'm very much licensed by the Department of Health, like very much in the clinical side. I participate in scientific research. And so, listen, if somebody is very excited about their spirituality and that connects with hypnosis and dreams, I love that for them. It's just not my lane. I stick with what we know from science. And I think that's a helpful foundation to lay. And then people can build off of it into their own interpretations and directions. And I'm a big fan of that too, but it's just not me. That's not my platform.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally get that. And I think especially when we're talking about like high stress in situations. Oh, people don't think, we were talking about this yesterday, actually, Megan and I, about how like wedding planning is stressful. Event planning is stressful.
So how did you get into this? I would love to hear that story.
The origin story. Yes.
Yeah.
I started my practice in 2017, which is a surprisingly large amount of time ago now that is uncomfortable for me to admit. But, 2017, I started my practice. And then, right on the heels of that, it takes about 3 to 5 years to get, anything kind of started when you're running a new business. Well, I ran right smack into COVID. And I'm sitting there on my couch like, great. Here I am, an in-person trauma counselor, and I got no people to see in person because we're all stuck at home. And I'm looking at my family and I'm like, oh boy, I've got to do something if I want to provide for my family. So I said, where are people right now? Where are they looking for help? And everyone was on their phones with social media. TikTok was really taking off at that point. And so I said, well, I'm not just going to sit here and let it take me over. I'm at least going to try and meet people with where they're at. So I started making some mental health content on social media, Instagram, TikTok, and I made a couple of videos about dreams and what they mean from the research, and those took off. I actually had a friend of mine who sort of started that journey with me. He pulled me aside in the office and he said, hey, Jesse, I had this weird dream last night. You're good with this stuff. Tell me what it means. And I was like, I don't know, man. I don't think I'm good with this stuff. He told me his dream and I was like, well, I don't know. But if it was me, the dream means this. He got this like horrified look in his eyes. He's like, oh my God, that's it. And that kind of sparked my mind. I'm like, there are people who can be helped with this kind of information. And so I just stuck with it. I don't know if you've seen Gary Vee on social media, but at that time he was saying, post on TikTok 3 times a day. I was like, all right, if Gary says it, I'm going to do it. So I did. I posted 3 times a day on TikTok for years.
That's a lot.
Yeah. And so it took off. And so TikTok is now over 2 million followers. I didn't put as much time in Instagram, but it trickles in. And so I've just been so blessed to be able to meet with people, to help them recover from PTSD nightmares. I've spoken at conferences. I've flown all over the US speaking about this stuff. And it's quickly become a passion of mine.
It's honestly something I think about on a somewhat regular basis, is like how lucky I am that my dreams are not scary as fuck.
It's a blessing. It's a blessing.
I can't imagine like living life and then also when you go to sleep at night having to like know that you are going to encounter some like terrifying dreams,
It's hard, especially for those who've experienced trauma. They tell me about that. every day they talk about how when it's time for them to go to sleep at the end of the day, they dread it. They get anxious right before they fall asleep because they know that those things they've been trying to put out of their mind during the day are probably going to come flooding back to them. They're going to wake up tired, exhausted, anxious, and traumatized because every night their brain repeats the stuff that they've experienced. And that's the piece by interpreting dreams. It does a lot to relieve those kind of symptoms in people. And that's what I hope to spread.
Yeah.
Is that the ultimate goal then? They talk to you about them, and by you helping them to understand what they could mean will hopefully start to alleviate some of those dreams from coming back for them?
Yeah, so there's kind of two goals of my company and the channel. One is to spread mental health awareness and healing, right? And so by interpreting dreams, you're connecting the dreaming part of your brain, the back, with the cognitive part of your brain, the thinking part of your brain, the front, prefrontal cortex. And so by interpreting them, by talking about them, you're facilitating brain connection, and that relieves and releases some of the trauma. That's number one. But number two, which has evolved much more recently, I actually spoke just last week at the International Association for the Study of Dreams, sharing with them how when you know what to look for in dreams, they actually become a diagnostic tool for showing people what they're struggling with. So if you show me a dream, I can say, oh, there's depression. Oh, there's anxiety. Oh, there's trauma. And so it becomes like a diagnostic tool to say, hey, this is what's going on. This is how we need to proceed so you can get your life back on track. And I don't think people realize just how powerful dreams are to be able to do that.
Yeah, that's
Totally.
amazing.
I think it's also really cool. I'm in therapy myself. I've been seeing my same therapist for like 5 years.
That's great.
Yeah, and how she operates is really like educating me on how my brain works. That gives you a lot of power too. Like when you realize like, oh, I have this pattern reaction due to XYZ, and that's my brain doing that. And there's something about it where you're like, you can take, I mean, you're still going to fall into whatever, habits you have or whatever sometimes. But when you're like, oh, I'm doing this because that's what my brain is chemically releasing for me to do right now or whatever, it makes you feel like you can then change behavior.
Yeah, and that's right. That's right in alignment with kind of like I have a tagline of the whole channel. So at Lyon Mental Health, which is all the social media stuff, every time I sign off when I do a live, I have a saying. And the saying goes, your mind is not against you. It's just misunderstood. And when you know what to look for, right, when you understand what your brain is doing, you're like, oh, my brain's not just trying to be a jerk every night I go to sleep. It's actually trying to help me get better. I just don't know how to give it the good boost to get there.
Yeah. Okay, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, he's like, I'm done.
Podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
I do think that's why I'm here. Yeah, you may ask a question, Jen.
All right. So I heard once if you are getting into a new relationship with somebody and it's becoming like, you're like, okay, now we're in a relationship, that you tend to dream about your exes because your brain is like filing things away or something like that. Can you tell us the doctor science behind that?
Oh yeah. I'll add some science to what you're saying because it's true, and a lot of people get really really concerned, and I think it gives them pause for their relationship because they're like, wait a minute, I just started dating this new guy and it's like going really well. Why am I dreaming about my ex again? Like I hate him. Well, your mind's not against you. It's just misunderstood. What it's trying to do is saying, hey, this is going really well. We really love this. We're happier. We're in a better phase of our life. Let's review the playbook, right? Last time we were in a relationship, it got messed up in these 15 different ways. So let's tonight, while we sleep, remember the ways that it got messed up so we can make sure not to repeat those mistakes. Let's also compare how this relationship is going with that past relationship so we can make sure that we're showing up in a better way as well. So it's all about rehearsal, right? Your mind is going back through your lived experiences to make sure that you're putting your best foot forward. It's not a time or it's not a dream to make you question whether you're in a good relationship. It's about making sure that you show up in the best way possible.
Love it.
I would think that would happen to people then before they get married too. Like right before you get married, you probably have multiple dreams about exes, and that could freak people out and be like, am I doing the right thing?
And then they show up in my DMs. They're like, I'm getting married next week and I keep dreaming about him. What's wrong with me? I'm like, literally nothing. Literally nothing. I'm very proud of your brain for trying to take care of you. It's like, this is a really big step.
Yeah.
Let's just make sure that we're doing the right thing. Like, let's review the playbook. Just like in sports, you review the tapes. We're reviewing the tapes. That's all we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Okay, Megan.
Yeah.
Megan has a dream that she's going to share with you, and we would love to hear what you think it means.
Well, it's wedding related, so it's easy and fun and silly.
I love it.
Don't worry, Megan will never let you into her interior, so it has nothing to do with.
No, I am.
keep going. We'll psychoanalyze that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he's already analyzing me.
Okay. I see you, Megan.
This is an intervention, Megan. We actually aren't here to talk about dreams.
This isn't getting posted. This is just the intervention. That's great.
All of a sudden, my husband pops on a fourth screen.
Yeah.
I walk through the door. I'm like, that's your apartment.
So funny. Okay, no, this is a very fun dream. It's actually one of my favorite wedding dreams ever because it was not like I didn't wake up stressed from it. So I had this dream, and this was multiple years ago, that the wedding cake didn't show up. Okay, so that's one of a couple's major fears is when a vendor doesn't come. And the wedding cake didn't show up. And so my solution was I drove home and I found some boxed cake mix, okay? And Betty Crocker, like boxed cake mix.
Oh, yeah.
I made the cake all by myself, and this is so unrealistic. And I brought this Betty Crocker cake to the wedding, and nobody knew the difference. And I was just like, look at what I did. Yeah. But I woke up and I was just like, that is the most ridiculous thing ever. But, it was fun and made me think about different things what would happen, if something like this did happen on the day of the wedding.
Yeah, good. It probably reveals more about you than you might realize. So, one, on a more surface level, it's very normal to dream about things going wrong, right? So let's kind of dissect this in layers here. Very normal to dream about things going wrong. I was actually one of the founding members for an app that interprets your dreams. I was the dream scientist there, and we did a piece of research with Ukrainians who were being invaded by the Russian war. And we analyzed their dreams to see what was going on. And a lot of them would dream about their homes being bombed, their families being killed. And the reason that happens is the mind is rehearsing. Like, if the worst outcome were to happen, what do I need to do? And so, one of the leading theories with dream interpretation is threat preparal, right? Preparing for threats. And so it's like, okay, if the cake doesn't show up, like that's a big threat to the success of this wedding. So let me rehearse this and make sure that I'm prepared to deal with things on the fly. So that's one. Some disasters are pretty normal. But if we take a more nuanced approach to it, you think about how you responded to it. Cakes can very much be, well, one, about celebration, but two, they're not really like nourishing. Like cakes, you're not going to cakes because it has all of your macronutrients inside of it. It's a celebration thing.
Right.
And so usually cakes are kind of a symbol of celebration and happiness, right? They bring people together. And so if I was going to venture an idea of what this dream means, if it was mine, I would say that I probably feel a lot of pressure for making other people feel happy at this wedding. And I don't feel like I can really bring other people in to support me. I feel like it all rests on my shoulders. And so if this cake were not to show up, if the people that I'm relying on in my life don't show up in the way, as they often don't, then it's going to be on me to make the happiness happen. And so there's kind of two layers of it, like disaster preparal, but also I got to acknowledge, Megan, if that was my dream, I would think that I feel a lot of pressure for making other people feel happy.
I think that's our job.
Yeah.
I feel like it is. Yeah.
Well, as a mental health counselor, I would argue with that. Your happiness is for you. Other people can make their own happiness. I don't need that pressure on my shoulders. I think that's healthy, right? That's good boundaries. Boundaries.
That's true.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh God, I love boundaries. You guys, boundaries is my new thing.
Yeah, they're great. They're very important. Yeah.
I have all of these things running through my mind because when I think of you, boundaries doesn't like pop to the forefront for me.
Well, that's because you knew me when. We've known each other since high school.
It's amazing.
Yeah, that's true.
And I just started having boundaries about a year ago. So
okay,
I'll
drink to that.
Thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I have before I got married, I had dreams about people in my life that I loved who had died, like in different capacities. Like either I had this one dream where like my grandma, oh, you guys, this one is really weird. So
that's good.
My grandma, yeah. So she was divorced, never got remarried. But in this dream, we were in somebody else's house, like haunting the house, like not doing anything bad, but we were there like watching this family.
Okay.
And she told me that it was the love of her life's family. So like the love of her life had gone off and they weren't together, right? They had gone off and created their own families. And in this dream, she was like showing me his family. It was the weirdest thing.
That is weird.
Oh. So you were in his house or grandma's house?
So I was in this man had died too, apparently, in the dream, but it was like his family. Like we were watching over his lineage that he had created with another person.
So he wasn't there?
No, it was just me and my grandma.
Wow.
But she was clear as day, was like, well, this is his family. This is the love of my life. And I was like, okay.
Wow.
That was before my wedding.
Nice.
And also, I'm divorced now. So, I mean, like, maybe it was, I don't know.
There's a premonition. I also will get separated. Well, I don't know. The statistics for staying married aren't very good. But anyway.
Yeah.
But I guess, yeah, curious what your thoughts are on that. And then just in general, I've heard that too. Like, other people getting married will have dreams of, you know, people who can't be there physically.
Yeah. Well, grief dreams pop up in my practice all the time, you know, and so there's a certain style of dreaming that happens when someone is recovering from and processing through grief. That's a very key part of it. But I'll say I get those questions a lot in my DMs as well, where people are saying, hey, I dreamed about this relative of mine who passed away. What does that mean? And they're easy to interpret, but not easy for me to interpret because it's so personal, right? And so I can tell you generally what grandma means, like maternal figure, lineage, history, you know, probably some social, cultural traditions that you still adhere to. But on a personal level, like you've got a relationship with your grandma. Like that's the part that I share with people is those who have been a part of our life in our relationships, they live on inside of us. Like we develop our identity based on our relationships with others, especially like grandmas, grandpas, moms, dads. That shapes who we are. And so a little bit of them still lives inside of us. And oftentimes when we're faced with a challenge, like getting married next week, those key figures will show back up into our life because our mind is saying, hey, it would be really great if we had some advice from grandma right now. So let's go search for that part of grandma that still lives within us to help us navigate this situation. I think oftentimes about my grandfather, who I've been compared to. And oftentimes my grandfather will show up in my dreams as kind of a symbol for the type of person that I want to be. And he will guide me toward the solutions to the things that I'm facing. And so, Jen, for you, I'd imagine that dream is, again, your mind preparing for the stress of the wedding, but preparing by looking to your ancestors to say, hey, this is how the strong women in your life have managed these difficult times. And so you're going to make it through too.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Yeah, I love that. My grandma was a badass, just in case you're wondering.
I had a feeling.
Okay, so what is, like, if you are doing this for other people, you must be doing it for yourself too. Or maybe not. I mean, maybe those who don't teach, isn't there some saying like that? But like, do you?
Subtle flack.
Isn't there a saying like this? Like those who don't know.
Taking shots at
yeah.
me.
I don't think she got the saying correct.
I'm a Virgo, so I like to tell people what they are doing wrong, but then I don't do that to myself. It's fine.
Here comes the astrology. I love it so much. That's crazy.
I know. I love astrology.
Oh, man.
Too. Do you write your dreams down? How do you do that for yourself? How do you wrap dream interpretation into your own life?
Yeah, I think it's easier in some ways and harder than others. I know too much.
Yeah.
And so, it was Sigmund Freud who talked very first about how if a dream is more bizarre or more strange, it's probably trying to conceal the truth even harder. And so Freud talked a lot about truth concealment. His protege, Carl Jung, who I like a lot more, Carl Jung said that dreams are actually trying to share in the clearest way possible. They just don't speak the same language that our prefrontal cortex does. And so when you have a really bizarre dream, it's your mind saying, hey, we need to acknowledge this truth, but you're probably not ready to consciously hear that yet. It's like the difficult truth that, your friends are all saying, well, we should really probably tell him that this is going on, but he's not going to like it. Your brain does the same thing. It's like it knows what steps it needs to take to heal, but it knows that you're not going to like it. So my dreams can be very bizarre because I know too much. And so my brain has to take a couple extra steps to make them even weirder because it's trying to hide the truth from me until I'm ready to actually receive it. But I write my dreams down in my phone every morning when I wake up. I grab my phone, I type down my dream. I'm not like as much of a dreamer as some. I'll dream like maybe 2-3 times a week that I'll remember them. But then when I look at them, I'll usually forget about them for the day and I'll come back the next day when my mind is a little bit clear from all the emotional processing. And then I'll look at it and be like, oh.
Yeah, brain.
Yeah, you're right. I need to work on that. And so I find it absolutely helpful, especially when I'm making tough decisions or in a stressful time of my life. It provides a lot of clarity for me. And so I cherish them a lot and I do write down my dreams.
Is there anything to be said about, like you just said, you dream a couple of times a week? Is that just kind of like unique to every individual, or like if you're dreaming more and remembering them more, is that connected to anything? Like you're in a phase of your life where you're learning something, or you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. So what the science tells us is that you dream every night. And in fact, you dream multiple times every single night. The beginning research into dreams believed that we only dream in the REM cycle of sleep, but subsequent research has found that to not be the case. We dream in all phases of sleep. There's 5, one is rapid eye movement, REM, and then the other 4 are very creatively named NREM, meaning not REM. So leave it to the scientists to be really creative there. But we have 5 phases and we dream in all 5 phases. But your style of dreaming will be different in each phase, and REM tends to be the most intense dreaming phase. That's why we discovered it first. So you dream every night. If you don't remember your dreams or you believe that you don't dream, that's just scientifically not true. The problem is when you wake up, your conscious mind comes back online and looks at all this dream story and mess and says, can I curse on the podcast?
Oh, yeah, please.
Yes.
Okay, great. It says, what's this shit?
Yeah.
It's like, we got stuff to do today. Get rid of this. And so it forgets it. And it forgets it before you even fully wake up. It takes a good number of minutes to fully exit the sleeping phase and get back into a conscious phase. And so in that time is when your mind goes through, we're too busy to deal with this crap. And so it sort of just wipes it away. That's why for me, when I'm the most stressed, I tend to not remember my dreams. So I go through this phase when I'm relaxed and taking care of myself and I'm really on my introspective journey. I'm working with my counselor. I'm going to remember more dreams. I get stressed. I remember less dreams because my mind's like, I don't got space for this crap. Mm-hmm. But then when I get super stressed, then I have the intrusive nightmare thoughts. Mm-hmm. And that's when it's so emotionally intense that my mind can't forget it. And so I'm a sleep talker. And my wife knows that if I'm really stressed, I'll sleep yell.
Yeah.
Poor thing, man.
That's calming.
That's so fun.
Yeah, no, it's so great. She told me I sat up straight in the bed, yelled, ah, and then laid back down. She's like, Jesus Christ, this man's possessed by a demon.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I was like, no, just stressed.
When my mom said I used to do that. She would come and check on me at night, and she'd open the door, and I would just sit up and look at her really creepy, and she'd be like, "Oh,
horrifying,
Jesus Christ!" and just shut the door. It was like,
that is really creepy.
Yeah. Well, I was like, "What do you need?" I'm sleeping. Yeah. But I was asleep, and I talk too. I talk in my sleep as well. So.
Yeah, sleep talker. That's me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Can we ask you a few more dream interpretation questions?
Sure, yeah.
Okay. We had a bride who said that she dreamt before her wedding that all of her teeth crumbled and fell out of her mouth.
Classic.
I feel like that's a common dream, right? So stuff happening with your teeth.
Mm-hmm. Very common. It's a very common anxiety dream in particular.
Oh, it is. Okay.
Yeah. If you think about, well, let me start here. So there actually is an ethical code for dream interpretation, believe it or not.
Okay.
The code for dream interpretation says that the dreamer is the one who retains the right for their ultimate interpretation, right? So it is unethical. It's not fair for a dream interpreter to come in and be like, your dream means this. That's rude. That's kind of non-consensual. It's like, don't tell me what my dream means. It's my brain. Right. So, the dreamer gets the ultimate interpretation. However, from that, we can kind of see some cultural and just human patterns. Human beings have been fighting snakes since time immemorial. And so snakes show up a lot in dreams. We all have a mom and a dad, right? And so, mothers and fathers show up a lot in dreams. And so we can kind of start to recognize some just human patterns. There's ways that human beings think and dream in stories that we can analyze. And we could be like, well, it's up to you, but I would say based on these symbols, it's going in this direction. You're kind of stressed. And so teeth falling out is one of those classic stress symbols. And the reason we say that is teeth are strength, right? You got a nice full set of teeth. They're pearly white. They're strong. That's strength. That's health. That's vitality. As we age, maybe as we're going through some health conditions, our teeth start to fall out. And so there's this human symbol of good teeth means strong. That's why we like good teeth. Hey, that's a strong person. That's a good partner for me. Look at their health. So when our teeth start to fall out, it's a very big sign that we don't feel strong enough to handle the problems that are going on. I mean, if you think about it, it's a great metaphor. Teeth break down our food into bite-sized pieces for us to digest. So if my teeth are crumbling before my wedding, I feel like I can't take a bite out of this problem, out of this upcoming stress in order to digest and process it. So it happens a lot. Teeth falling out, teeth crumbling, big anxiety.
Mm. Yeah, that tracks.
Dun, dun, dun.
I know. Mm-hmm. I know you can't do this because you just said this. You just said ethically you can't. But internally, have you ever heard somebody's dream and been like, ooh, they should not be doing what they're about to do? Or
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the dreamer has the right to their interpretation, but we always just frame it this way. I say, listen, if this was my dream, if I had a dream like that, it would mean this for me. What does it mean for you? And so I'll tell people, like, listen, it's your dream, so you got to make sense of it as you will. But if this was my dream, it's a huge warning sign for this. Like, I would be steering clear of this situation because that seems like a big warning. But at the end of the day, it's your call. And that's the respect that the dreamers do.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
I wonder what mothers of the bride's biggest dreams are before the wedding. We didn't have any mothers of the bride submit dreams, but I'm just curious because they've got a lot going on before the wedding.
Well, and a lot of mothers are boomers who don't go to therapy. So not only, I generalize all the time about boomers. That's okay.
Jen does.
It's fine.
She has a chip on her shoulder and she lets it.
I do.
I'm seeing. Pull up the salsa.
But I'm open about it. I'm very open about it. But it is frustrating to me because I have married hundreds and hundreds of couples. So that's just been a lot of mothers and fathers. And it is wild watching them put their anxiety on their children. I mean, it's just can you just not? But I'm sure their dreams are a mess.
Mm-hmm. Well, I hear a lot of people just say they can't sleep, which is a whole different thing too.
Yeah, it's part of it.
Yeah.
I find that often happens because, just speaking generally as a counselor with anxiety, there is expectation and then there's reality. And oftentimes our expectation does not match with reality. And the greater the distance between expectation and reality, the greater the anxiety. The goal of a counselor and the goal of people is to bring expectation and reality into alignment. I'm kind of doing a motion with my hands there to show them becoming aligned. And so that's a big part of my work as a counselor. Like when I'm dealing with, the in-laws, when I'm dealing with the mother of the bride, when I'm dealing with people who are stressed about their wedding, it's like, hey, you have this expectation that you can control all aspects of the wedding. Mm-hmm. And to be honest, like if we talk about consumer culture and the marketing around weddings, that's what's fed to us is like, hey, you can have all these things, you can control all this stuff, you can make it your perfect fairy tale. There's so much pressure and there's so much false expectations that you control everything. Listen, your crazy uncle's going to show up, he's going to do something dumb.
Right.
You can't control that. You can almost just guarantee it. So better to accept that let's plan for uncle to do something stupid. Let's plan for the in-laws to be very much full of themselves and to create some kind of drama than to try and put on myself the expectation that it's going to be a perfect wedding when there's no way because it's full of imperfect people.
Right.
Yes.
It's, like so many other things, social media has a lot to do with that. Pinterest and what other people post online, I think.
It's a bunch of different directions.
Yeah.
I mean, it's friends, it's social media, it's the consumer culture stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot. It's a lot of people telling you what you should believe. And it's like, take a moment, pause, meditate.
Yeah.
What do I actually believe about this?
Right.
I also think, I've witnessed it many times and I prepare my couples for this. It's going to bring up stuff that you are not prepared for. Like
Oh,
it is
yeah.
like conversations about money, conversations about like, I mean, you're really, as a couple, you're making compromises for the real compromises for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
And just everyone kind of has to deal with the life change. And it's like the parents are now realizing our children are adults and they're getting married and starting their own families. Like that's putting them in that whole like, where am I in my life? And my life is almost, or I don't know. I always think that like my life is almost over.
Holy shit, Jen.
Well, but then, you know, I'm sitting at a linen appointment and their mom and daughter are arguing over a linen. And I'm like, this has nothing to do with a linen, right? This is something to do with what happened when Sarah was 12.
Yep.
So I just,
Does.
we see all of this and we planners especially navigate all of it. So it's stuff that a lot of the other vendors are not having to deal with because, you know, we create the safe space. That's why on my website, I joke that I'm not just a planner, I'm a therapist and I'm a friend and I'm all these things because
in many ways.
Because they feel comfortable enough to just really open up during the linen meeting.
That's
The face that you're making says it all.
Yeah. So,
Agreed.
So it's just a very interesting journey. And I think people don't realize it.
Yeah. And sometimes unprepared for it. You know,
Anyways.
it sneaks up on them by surprise.
Yeah.
And they're like, what are all these feelings coming from? Why did I act that way? It's like, oh, there's a lot of subconscious stuff at play with these really big life decisions.
Okay, I'm going to ask you a question we ask all of our guests, and it doesn't really apply in the same way, but there has to be a pet peeve that you have in your line of work.
Oh, man.
And
Yep.
Oh, I'm thinking of a couple. Okay. Yep.
Usually comes to people pretty quick.
yeah. So would you share a pet peeve that you have?
Yes, absolutely. And it's a pet peeve because I think it has become the cornerstone of my business. You know, any good business, as you start it, you know, you need to find a pain, a problem for people and solve it. Like that's what a good business is built upon, making life better. And so one of the problems that I have encountered with counselors and therapists specifically is that they really struggle with clear thinking. They're very good at holding space. They're very good at validating emotions. But, you know, if you think about it, when somebody is depressed, there's a difference between helping someone recover from that depression and then just validating the depression and making it sink in deeper. And so if there's a pet peeve, it's that you want to look for a counselor who has clear thinking, who's able to define their terms. I'm very big, like when I was a weird teenager, I didn't want to become a counselor. I wanted to be a philosopher first. I was that weird high school kid who was reading like miserable philosophy books and just loved it. And so you know, I looked at my, you know, prospects being a philosopher. I was like, this doesn't make any money. I need something else. And so I became a counselor because it deals with the same complex thoughts. And so that carried with me though, speech and debate and philosophy. And I meet a lot of counselors who I'll ask them, you know, define trauma for me. And they can't. They just list symptoms. And I'm like, that's the same thing as if you went to a doctor and said, hey, what's the flu? And they said it's a cough, a runny nose, and a fever. No, the flu is a virus and we have to treat it so people can get better because they're suffering. And so I think just listing symptoms is not adequate. My pet peeve is that I call other counselors to be better. And I think we owe it to our clients to be better in that way. And so clear thinking and defining your terms would have to be the pet peeve in my profession. That's really important.
Amazing.
Yeah. And like empathy. That's what it sounds like too.
Yeah. Empathy.
Like,
well, sometimes empathy is tough. You know,
Yeah.
It's not just saying, oh yeah, this is really hard for you. Empathy is like, I see this is hard, but let's confront this head on. I know this is tough, but I believe in you and we can face this. And I know that sometimes the truth is hard to hear, but we're going to get through it together. And I'm here holding your hand through those steps.
yeah, it's been great.
I mean, it's a skill.
Yeah.
I think that's a skill because you could easily look at somebody and just be like, well, you're a fucking idiot for like doing that to begin with.
Right.
You need to see the whole perspective. Yeah.
Yeah, but going deeper and being like, well, sure, maybe most people would say you're an idiot, but if we look deep enough, I can see how you arrived to that conclusion. And I've got empathy and care for that. It's like, I know that you were trying your best, but you had some bad information. Let's work on this together. I know that you can live the life that you want to live if we just have the right tools to do it.
Yeah.
It's been such a cool thing to watch evolve. So I'm 42. I was first diagnosed with depression when I was 17. So that was like 1999. And it was just everyone was given the same prescription, and there was nothing else really about it, that you just took a pill and off you went. And actually so much so that when I had to go back on medication 2 years ago, I mean, I dragged my feet for a long time because I remembered the experience I had had in my 20s. And so it's nice to see it become like, and also you had to lie about it. You know, you couldn't really tell people you suffered from depression or anxiety.
Yeah.
And now,
it's true.
Yeah. And now it's just this very, you know, it's conversational. A lot of people will talk about it very openly. I feel like even how medicine is prescribed has changed. You know, it's very much like you take it into account your lifestyle and what you're trying to achieve. And so it's been really nice to see that. And as you know, I do recommend to all my clients that they consider, if they don't have a therapist, that they consider having one during this journey, because there's only so much I can do, and there's only so much they can do for each other. It's like you need that kind of, I think everyone would benefit from having that guidance. So.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. It has changed pretty significantly, and I'm very proud of the progress that we've made. I think one of the things to just give evidence to how much it has changed is people are talking about it so freely that now we almost have the opposite problem, where everything is ADHD, everything's depression, everything's anxiety, and they'll be listing these symptoms. And it's like, no, okay, as a professional, like not everything means you have ADHD, right? You know, maybe you do, right? But sometimes we share too much and it's not actually clinically backed data. But I am overwhelmingly proud that we're having the conversation now. I would much rather take that, where before it was, like you're saying, Jen, suffering in silence.
Yeah.
You couldn't tell anybody about it because they would judge you for it. That's just not helpful for people to get better.
It's like the opposite of helpful. It's like shame added to an already to your depression and anxiety. It's like real great. So what's some advice that you would give to couples who are considering getting engaged and going through the wedding journey process? As somebody who did it themselves, what are some pieces of advice that you have?
Yeah, my wife and I celebrated 10 years. Actually February. Yeah.
You do not look old enough to be married for 10 years.
I'm not. We got married at 21, so I'm 31 now. So we got married very young, and for some religious reasons. You know, we both grew up very conservative Christian, and so we have a very interesting wedding story. We didn't kiss until the altar.
Oh, wow.
Which is very like unique story. And so, man, she's just the best thing that's ever happened to me. I love her so much. We've got a beautiful 2-year-old who's just awesome. But it's been hard. And so I think if I was talking to a younger version of myself, I would definitely say just broad brushstroke is like get into some good couples counseling. And it's hard to find a good couples counselor. So let me validate that too. You know, not all doctors are the same. Not all counselors are the same. And so if you have a couples counselor and you're like, that didn't work, before you just throw in the whole towel, be like, it might have just not been the right couples counselor for you. Find a new one. Try a few out. It's okay. Like, we're not going to take that personal. And if you do, like, if a counselor does take that personal, they shouldn't be a counselor. That's a bad sign. So try a few out. Find somebody who really gets you, who aligns with your core values and can help guide you on the journey. Because as a counselor myself, I still go to couples counseling with my wife because I'm involved in my wife's life in a very different manner than a neutral third-party counselor is. I may clinically know some things that our relationship needs, but she's not going to hear those things from me. And that's not because she doesn't love me. It's because half of everything is staked on me. So it's like she has to like take it with a grain of salt. And same thing for her. You know, the counselor will tell me something that she's been telling me for a long time. And I'll be like, oh, well, damn, now I get it. And I'll turn to her and be like, I'm so sorry, babe. You've definitely been telling me that for 6 months, and that's on me. So couples counseling is great. And then I also got to do a shout out. Watch how people spend their money. Watch your finances. Like, you can tell a lot about a person. They may be nice. They may say all the nice things, but if you notice how they handle their finances, how diligent and deliberate they are with their planning their life, that says a lot about their character. And we know from the research that financial problems are the number one relationship ender. So I got to put that in there. It's more than just the relationship. You got to pay attention to how a person manages their own life. It's a lot about them. And finances are a key way to pay attention to that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's great advice.
That is great advice.
Thanks.
One more question about your advice.
Yeah.
What do you recommend if one partner is interested in couples therapy and the other is having some like reservations about it? Is there any advice you have on like approaching that?
In the perspective of being the partner who wants to go, trying to talk to your partner who doesn't want to go?
Yeah.
Sure. Well, first, I would want to not take it personal, right? Just because your partner doesn't want to go to couples counseling doesn't mean that they don't like you. But there's probably a fear there, right? We talk about being a counselor, and like you said, Megan, you're saying like, well, you're just being an idiot. And it's like, well, yeah, probably. But there may be a way that we got to being an idiot. And so I can have empathy for that. And hey, Captain Idiot number 1 over here, raising my hand. So, I'm part of this group. But to validate and be like, okay, tell me, let me listen, right? I'm not going to try and correct your thinking. Let me just hear and validate your concerns. I think that they're going to do this. I think that they're going to do this. Okay, those are important to me too. I want you to be a part of this. I don't want you to be dragged into it against your will. I want us to find a person who can help us grow closer together that addresses your concerns and my concerns. And so bring those up in the first session of counseling. Be like, hey, I'm worried about these 3 things. She's worried about these 3 things. And then, just kind of confront the counselor with them. I mean, we're pretty used to confrontation as counselors. And, I'll talk somebody through it. Be like, I'm glad that you told me. We'll make sure to do it in this way. So I think that's the best place to start. Validate the concerns.
Love it. Love it.
Does anybody ever really get mad at you when you're telling them something about themselves? I imagine people can get really upset. Right?
Yeah. I've had couples counseling sessions where it was just a mess. And so I turned to one party in the couples session and I was like, listen, this is not fair. But we have to start somewhere with this relationship. And right now, you're the one putting holes in walls and breaking things in the house. So I've got to start there. We have to maintain safety before we can go deeper in this relationship. And so this member of the couple did a great job. And they were like, yeah, I know it's not fair. I've still got things that I'm angry with my partner about, but I'll work on my self-control to create safety. And they crushed it. They did so good. Then we come back, right? And I'm like, listen, I asked partner A to do something that was not fair. I asked to focus on them first without focusing on you. Now it's time to switch gears. I need you to work on these things. They got pissed, stormed out of the session. They never came back. And so I'm sitting there with partner A and they're like questioning the relationship, and talking to me about it. And I was like, well, I know you had some questions about this relationship. You might have just found your answer. You went above and beyond and fixed some things. And then I asked them to do some very simple things. And after seeing you put in the effort, they didn't want to put in any effort. I think you have your answer. And it was very hard. And I had to sit with them with that. So yeah, people do get very mad at me.
Yeah.
I have to say the truth that no one wants to hear.
A lot of people struggle with accountability. I think that's a tough thing.
Yes. Yeah. That's why I say the money thing, accountability.
Big time. Okay. Should we end on something fun?
Yeah. Sounds good.
Okay. What's fun?
How about we ask Jessie, what is something that you want to manifest for your career? So we ask our guests that too. So we always say like, what is something that, a goal of yours in your career? Is there, I don't know what that would be, but do you have something in mind? You're so young. You have so much time.
Yeah. And you're already TikTok famous. So like,
so what's next?
Where do you go next?
I have a big goal. So I have got my hands in a lot of things. Social media was a really fun journey, but I think the next phase of what I'm looking into is a company I founded with my business partner called Trauma-Focused Hypnotherapy. And so back to my pet peeve, I talk with therapists and educate them about how to address trauma. And it's very disappointing that many of them can't even define or give me a good treatment plan for healing trauma. And so I started this company that certifies therapists to practice hypnosis for complex trauma recovery, which is what I specialize in. And so my big goal is we've gotten a lot of opportunities inside the US to share this information, but we've got our sights set on Canada and Switzerland and some places in Europe. And so taking this education company, which has helped so many people in ways that I haven't seen happen in any other format. Taking this company international and being able to speak and teach at some really prestigious universities to shape the next generation of counselors is a huge goal for me. And I think we're getting closer and closer every day to achieving that.
That's awesome.
So cool. Well, I can't wait to keep watching your journey. Like, you have the most incredible energy. I feel like
Thanks.
I've known you for years, and it's been like an hour. We really appreciate you sharing your time and energy with us today.
Yeah.
Yes. And how does everybody find you on social media? Tell us all the places, and then we'll post.
Yeah, check me out. Send me a DM. I got a whole team who helps me out with all the things that I'm working on. So we're here and happy to help you. My social media handles across all the platforms are Lyon Mental Health, but it's spelled like my last name, Lyon Mental Health. We try and make it easy.
Awesome.
And actually, for any of those who are interested, I have a YouTube show where I invite members of my audience onto my show, and we record an hour-long dream interpretation session. It usually gets very deep. We deal with like some ghosts and demons in the closet. People cry. It is powerful. So if you want to see what a real hour-long dream interpretation session looks like, you can check me out on YouTube and apply to be on the show. It's guest hosts. Come on in, and we'll take a deep dive, and we'll share the power of dreams with the world.
Awesome.
Very cool.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thanks for having me. This has been great. Hey.
All right. Now we end.
Thanks so much for joining us again this week. If you have a wedding or travel-related story of your own that you would like us to share in a future episode, send us an email to theplannerspassport@gmail.com.
And be sure to follow us on Instagram at The Planner's Passport, and follow all of our travel and wedding businesses, including We Roam Solo, Dare to Dream Travel, and Dare to Dream Weddings. And please, if you enjoy our show, remember to rate, review, and subscribe from wherever you are listening to this podcast.